Thank you so much for joining us. One of our panelists is also joining us online, but I'm going to allow everyone to introduce themselves. This, of course, is the last in a number of talks that we had as our pioneering project on LGBTQ issues at the bar. Supporting and honoring diversity is tonight's topic, and what is very, very exciting, Lerato will appreciate, because I've heard the questions we had on the previous is inclusivity and diversity at home, and how do we deal with that, and is it something to deal with? But more importantly, also, we're going to speak tonight about general mental health as well, and what that encompasses within the LGBT and queer community. So I'm very excited and very honored for everybody who have, in fact, agreed to participate in this discussion tonight, free of charge and pro bono, because they're all passionate about this project. And I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Kirsten Harris on. Kirsten, if you could just tell us what you do, where you're from, just a brief bio.
Okay, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Kirsten or Kirsty. I am a registered counsellor and completing my life skills coaching qualification with Trace at the School of Life. I am a daughter, a sister, a friend, a cousin, and I'm gay. Yeah, I think just, only being, excuse me, able to talk from my experience. I grew up, well, in a home with straight parents. Most of my family is straight. One of my cousins joins me on this side. And yeah, so I think before we get into the topics, that's a bit about me.
Okay, Kirsten, what pronouns do you prefer?
She, her. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Then on my left, I've got Onkukame Sipamo. Now, Onkukame Sipamo is from Activate Wits. Onkukame, if you could tell us more a little bit about you and what your organization stands for.
Okay, so this is it. I'm from Wits. So I'm doing my third year in the law and psychology, and I'm the secretary of Wits Activate. So part of my roles is communications and issuing out statements. So what Activate does is try to create a safe space and foster change within the university space by having panel discussions, talks, marches, and also engaging with management in terms of how to make the space within the university more safe and approachable for everyone.
Thank you so much, Onkukame. Then next to Onkukame, we've got Leon Bossop. Leon, if you could tell us a little bit about you professionally and personally.
Yeah, so I was wondering if I should tell you exactly what I do as a profession, because we're in a room full of advocates. But I'm a legal drug dealer, so qualified as a pharmacist. I work in the pharmaceutical industry, but it's taken a while, good couple of years for me to really find out what I really believe is my calling in life. And that's to go through the life skills and to be able to teach people and help people and just to make a contribution to other people. So yes, I'm married, come from a very traditional kind of upbringing with my parents. So, I've got 2 boys, and yeah, I'm the father of a gay son.
Okay, we'll elaborate a little bit on that more later. Then next to you, we've got Tracy Pinder. Tracy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about School of Life, the School of Life, and you also have a special connection with the bar, I believe.
Right there. My daughter, Michelle. Mom. Hello, daughter. My name is Tracy Punda. I'm the owner and the founder of the School of Life Pty Limited and non-profit organization. I've been coaching and counseling. I was in the motor industry for 17 years, and that didn't work out, and I decided to do something that was more meaningful with my life. And I studied to be a Christian counselor, and then I did an international life skills coaching course. And I realized, then I started working with Dr. Jiva, who's a specialist ADHD psychiatrist, child and adult psychiatrist. And I realized I was ADHD. And we didn't have skills. So the traditional coaching and counseling is not teaching you how to manage your brain fitness, brain health. So I put together a life skills coaching program, and I realized that we should be taught these things in school. If we knew how to manage our minds, we would be a lot more healthier, functional human beings. So I put the course together, and so far I've trained over 60 coaches. And yeah, I'm on a mission to teach and empower as many individuals as possible with brain health skills, practical life skills.
Thank you. Tracy, and then you've got a very young lass there next to you, Jessica Swanepoel. Jessica, can you please tell us a little bit about you? How old are you now?
16.
16. Going on 24, Mom.
My mom wishes, and I'd be out of their pockets, but
That's what you think.
but yeah, I'm a student at St. Dominic's. I came out to my parents about 3 years ago. I'm gay. It's just
No.
it's crazy.
Loud and proud.
Yeah, my mother always told me to be who I am, be proud of it, even if it's going to be a tough life, which it has. Faced many mental issues, epilepsy. Yeah, but my parents have always adored me. Yeah, I'm here to just raise awareness.
At what school are you currently? Jessica?
St. Dominic's.
St. Dominic's, is that a Catholic school?
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Jessica, your pronouns?
She, her.
She, her. All right. Then we've got Alice Swanepoel, who is especially well known in the family law maternity, if I may say so. Alice, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, so obviously I'm an attorney. I've got wine, the rest have got water. So. That's what we do. I've been a magistrate for 17 years. I went back to the profession about 6-7 years ago. Left magistrate because I hate bureaucracy and I'm not a team player. Have a great practice, whatever else. And then my wonderful husband is sitting there in the second row.
Say hi, Dad.
Was an advocate. He was appointed to the bench last year. And then we have our daughter. I've got 2 sons. They're my stepkids, but they're my boys. Neil will tell you he wasn't born from this body, he was born from this heart, 25 years old. And my wonderful daughter that allows us to be a part of this community. The amount of things that I've learned from her, the compassion, the kindness, and we'll have this discussion later, but I must say to you, she said to me one day, and Siska's right when she says 16 going on 24, because she said to me, Mommy, why do gay people come out? Do straight people ever come out? Have you ever had this day when you say, oh, well, I don't know if I'm straight, I might be bi. Don't know. But do they have that? Do they have that day? So by me coming out, I'm saying that I'm not normal and I'm doing that. So those are the kind of debates I think we should be having, and those are the kinds of chats I think we should be having. It's wonderful that kids have that, and we are just so privileged that we're a part of her life. We meet so many people, I meet so many things, I learn every day, and I'm just embracing it. And I just hope that we can come to that point. Just because somebody doesn't tick your box doesn't mean that they don't have the right to exist. So yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you, Alice. I think as a precursor, I would just like to say this is, of course, a very transparent kind of discussion. It's going to cover a number of topics, and there might also be a number of sensitive topics that we will discuss. So just be acutely aware that what we're trying to create is a very safe space for everyone to speak their views, whether those are dissenting views or whether they are concurring views, to use court terms. But this is a safe space where we all want to address the issues that is close to our heart and that has remained unaddressed for so long. So just be aware that there might very well pop up a few sensitive issues every so now and again. All right, Tracy, if I may start with you.
Sure.
From within the context of the LGBT community, and of course, when I approached you, I said to you, we're trying to evolve the Johannesburg bar from the 18th century to the modern century, where in fact we want the queer community to have a space within the bar, but we also want it to be part of that heteronormative environment, if I could call it that. But having said that, what also came up during the discussions is coming out, whether you come out, whether you don't come out professionally, what impact that may have on your practice, and also what impact that might have on general mental health. So if you could address that with us, just this is an introductory, why is it important to also be aware within this awareness that we want to create on inclusion and diversity about mental health, wellness rather, within the queer community?
So I'm going to start off with a story, and this story is what we base our coaching on. And the story is about, we're all born, and this is a story of all our lives. We're born with two needs. We're born with the need for authenticity, and we're born with the need for connection, attachments. But what happens is a 1.5-year-old child can say no. If you listen to a child, 1.5-year-old child can say no. We learn to say no before we can say yes, and there's good reason for that. And the reason is we won't be able to appreciate the yes unless we've had a no. So Michelle's 2 years old, and I want to be a good mom. So I know Michelle needs to eat vegetables. So I give Michelle some spinach, and Michelle doesn't like it, so she spits it out. So now my body language changes, my tone of voice changes, my words change, and I say, Mish, you need to eat your spinach. So we go on like this, but Michelle can see I'm getting angry. So on a very deep subconscious level, we make a decision. So she can either choose her authenticity, which comes with anger, or she can choose her attachments. And what she does is she needs her attachments for survival. And as we grow up, we learn to choose our attachments over our authenticity because our authenticity threatens our attachments. And in our greatness is our authenticity. And a very good example of that is Freddie Mercury. He was the one person who chose attachments over authenticity over attachments. So with regards to the mental health, what happens when we're not authentic? Because at our age, any age, all you want to be is just me. I just want to be me. So we start masking. We start wearing different masks, the people pleaser mask. There's many masks, there's 11 different personality masks we wear just to fit in and be accepted. Because the human being's greatest fear is I'm not enough. So we want to be loved, we want to be needed. So our authenticity then becomes less and less and less. And then obviously that affects our mental health. We become anxious, we become depressed. How many people do you know who've committed suicide and you would never say they were depressed? They were masking. So it's really important we base everything on being authentic, learning to lose, first identify what the masks you're wearing and why are you wearing them, and then to start losing the masks. And that is obviously we wear masks to protect our self-esteem.
So I wanted to ask you within the context of the bar and the legal profession, we do wear masks in the legal profession because we represent other parties and other interests. So it is only but correct for us to have that neutrality and anonymous masking for the sake of becoming a conduit.
But how much does that mask affect your self-esteem?
Yes, but that is it, isn't it? That's the point, isn't it?
Exactly.
There's differentiation between different maskings.
Yes.
But within an environment where it's quite cutthroat, I mean, just talking about mental healthness, mental health wellness, so to speak, only happened maybe the past year within the international bar arena and now locally. And it's usually quite frowned upon because it's seen as a weakness. And one can't show weakness in the legal profession. And how does the queer community buffer that perception that, oh, now we have to talk about queer rights and immediately we talk about mental health as well. So is there a connect or a disconnect between queerness and mental health or unwellness?
So to me, it's all about a human being, a person. It's like supporting. We had this conversation yesterday, Leon, Kirsty and I, about supporting people and becoming inclusive. Maybe if you want to take over from there, Leon.
Yes. I struggle with the word support. I won't apologize if I offend anyone, because what I'm trying to say here is by saying we want to support someone, we are implying that there's something wrong with that person and they need help. So just because the person is gay, and we say, I need to support you, the message that I would get is, why do you want to support me? Is there something wrong with me? But there's nothing wrong with you. So it's a question of, for me, it's not about support, but it's how do we accept and create an environment for people to be authentic, to be real. It was the interesting thing that I found through this journey I've gone through is the more we try and connect with people outside and please people, put on the masks, the more we lose connection with ourselves. And the more we lose connections with ourselves, the less authentic we become. And eventually we don't know who we are. And it's all about having that safe space to be in a place where you can connect with yourself, feel your emotions, deal with that, and understand your feelings and your thought patterns, and to be your authentic self. And it was a challenge for me. When my son told me that he was gay, it was, it's a knock to self-esteem. I got to now think, okay, is that going to, and essentially that kind of, I was thinking more about the people and my connections with people. What are they going to think? How are they going to react? What are they going to say? And eventually that resulted in me becoming less authentic. I was no longer myself, even as a parent. And I had to learn, they have their own journey that they need to walk on, and they need to make their own choices.
Yes.
I need to be strong enough in my own self-esteem to know that I'm being authentic.
So, Uncle Kabe, what I wanted to ask you was in the context of the student community, because the idea that I had was to have a discussion also with different generations, and now you've got the student community. What measures have Activate Wits or Wits per se put in place to create a safe space for the queer community at varsity?
Okay, so we have what's called the Gender Equity Office. So basically, if you go through any kind of harassment that's gender related, could be that, for instance, your roommate, mostly with first years, your roommate is homophobic, and then you report it to a house con, then house con does not do anything, then you can escalate it to the Gender Equity Office, whereby they conduct an investigation to see into what really happened and how to try and mitigate the situation and what's the state, so currently we have this other project that we're doing whereby we're trying to establish like a queer residence where it's going to be only for queer students to try and protect them from all the harassment that they face from house committees or wardens whenever they need assistance with anything that they was as concerns them at that moment.
Is homophobia still a real thing at universities?
Yes, it is. People have different beliefs. They come from different different areas of the country, and some are open-minded. They open to read. Some they mask it and say, "Oh, what is queer?" And they ask it in a certain way where it's aggressive, and most people don't notice that. But if you're like within the queer activism space, you get to experience that a lot, and whenever those things happen, you pick up on it.
So I wanted to ask you, Alice, I mean, having had a daughter who came out at the age of 12, and I mean, this was one of the questions that were touched on. I mean, when is it ever appropriate to have that discussion? Or in your case, how did it happen? Did Jessica naturally raise that? Or is there that sort of discussion where you say, well, my daughter, it's time to talk about identity? You know, how do you approach that as a parent?
Okay, so I'm an HSP. I'm a highly sensitive person. Doesn't mean I care what you think about me. It just means that I've taken a lot of detail. So I can tell you now, people might not like this, but this is a safe space. So yeah, like we will say in law, this is without prejudice. Jessica was 2 months old, and I was holding her one day, and I was looking at her, and I knew she was gay. I knew it. Okay. So fast forward, we were chatting one day about kids wanting to commit suicide and cut themselves and blah 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 blah. And I said to her, oh, well, at least you don't do it. She says, oh, I wanted to commit suicide a year ago. I was like, what? And Cliff and I were both like, what? I mean, that's the last thing you want to hear from your child. And she kept us in the dark for about, I think, 2 or 3 days. And then one night, about 3 o'clock, she sends a WhatsApp to Twitter, it's because I'm gay. And I thought, buggy you. You did this for me for 3 days. I'm getting back at you. So I said to her, no problem, meet me in the lounge tomorrow morning. So she got in there and all white faced. She doesn't know what's happening. I said to her, I phoned the church. Don't stress, darling. We're going to pray the guy away. We're going to get rid of all of this.
I was 12 years old.
So she was like, that spirits. And then I said to her, no. So to me, it is all about. And then I said to her, it's a hard life. And I said to her, it's a hard life because I'm in this profession. I've been around the block, and now I look 20, but I'm going on 150. So I know people are cruel, and I know there's a lot of people that's not kind. And I know people are having prejudices, and they're going to say it to her. And it's different to say it to somebody that's 30, 40, and is living the authenticity, and that's different from trying to do that for somebody that this is about. But what I want to say is, I said to her, so it's going to be a hard life, and I'm very glad you're here tonight, because I think for our kids, they need to learn skills. They need to learn that hate speech when there's a WhatsApp group, and social media is part of their communication. It's part of who they are. So if there's a WhatsApp group and this guy comes and says, yeah, but you're fucking ugly, sorry, swearing, whatever else, and you're gay and whatever else, you need to have the skills to deal with that, and to sort that out, and to when you engage, when you don't engage, and whatever else. So I would love to see, for example, in our schools or whatever else, awareness around that and a set skill. And then the other thing I said to her is, you're going to be proud, you're going to be authentic about who you are. You're not, if this is who you are, you're not going to shy away from it. And hence, son of my brother comes, so where's the boyfriend? And she looks at me and says, she says, I don't have a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend. That was the end of that discussion. But at least she stood up for it. And I do that. I mean, I met senior counsel the other day who started to say, ooh, I think the ander kant is a bietjie gay. And I said to my daughter's gay, so we're not having these conversations. So I think it's about awareness. And I think it's about empowering our children I think there's a lot of people out there that's not parents that can't come to terms with it. So I would like to see that we have a sort of network where we can assist them also with skills, because parents also have prejudices and parents also have, but it's all about awarenesses. And I said this to Siska the other day when we were chatting. I said to her, listen, you're not going to change the 1800 guys. You're not going to change them. Don't worry about them. Worry about those guys that are open, that you can change, that you can give it and whatever else. And that's where you find it. And that's where you find this community and have that awareness. But raise our children with pride. I mean, you can come to my house every weekend, and this is why I love this child. There's gays, there's trans, there's he's, there's theys, there's black, there's white, there's green, there's pink. It doesn't matter, because if you walk through the door, this is a safe zone. You're not being judged. You are who you are, and you're safe who you are. And I think if we can teach that to our kids, and if we can teach them to be strong in that and give them those skills, I think that's what you need.
So, Jessica, how important was it to you and children in your school to have the support of their parents when coming out?
Well, I'm in a Catholic school, so a lot of the girls that are gay are Catholic. Let me just say that Catholic girls are mostly gay.
The Pope is not online.
Or they're just trying to be disobedient. Either way. So a lot of the times, there are girls whose parents tell them to not be friends with me because I'm openly gay. And a lot of them come to me to figure themselves out. Hey, get your mind out the gutter. But,
yes, there's many ways to interpret that.
I mean in conversations, nothing more. So I'm one of the only kids in the school that really has their parents to back them up. Even my friends' parents who say they support me, a lot of them say stuff about me behind my back.
So how does it affect other kids who don't have that support at home?
I find a lot of them trying to force themselves to be straight. A lot of them will deny it and deny it and deny it. But at the end of the day, they know that that's who they really are. And I've seen a lot of them break down like in front of me because they can't love who they want to, because I've seen girls thrown out of their homes. I mean, my partner was just thrown out of his house the other day by his mother. So it can be very toxic. My one friend came over today, she's bisexual, and her parents were like, we don't feel safe leaving you here. And I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I'm 16. And to them, all they really wish is that their parents could see them for who they are.
Yeah.
And just to love them.
So Kirsten, if I can ask you online, in the process of life coaching, what tools would you say parents and then also specifically children can employ in this process of coming out and providing or creating a safe space of inclusion and diversity within a home environment? Let's start there.
I think definitely for children and parents' self-esteem, those are really important skills to have. And I think it goes back to what Leon was saying about his self-esteem, when his son told him he was gay and what will people think of me, I think if it's something that for the parents, maybe will take some time for them to, I suppose, I don't know if accept is the right word, but accept, I suppose, that their child is gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, gender diverse, sexually orientated differently, sometimes it's not about not accepting their child, it's about struggling to accept their lifestyle. In other scenarios, I've also seen where parents just don't accept the whole child, and it becomes, oh, I must have done something wrong, or it's a reflection on me somehow. So I think self-esteem is definitely a big one. An open mindset, being open to learning and accepting. I know the skills, but I also find it quite difficult because I suppose of my own experiences, with my parents and myself, and going back to what Tracy said, I think it's also, for me, any mental health challenges in this context also stem almost directly from that. For me, it was a clash between authenticity and attachment and those connections. And I mean, my parents got divorced when I was quite young and didn't see my dad a lot, but predominantly living with my mom, and extremely supportive and open, and I could talk to her about anything. And suddenly, when it came to this part of my life, there was this absolute fear. Like, it's almost weighing up the risk of being who I am versus losing this attachment that I have. And I, in fact, didn't even tell my mom myself. A friend was concerned, so she outed me to my mom, and it was just difficult. And I mean, my mom also, she was very sad, but we spoke, and her sadness came from, she said, life is difficult as it is. It's just now going to be more difficult. When I told my dad, he replied in an email and said I was just going through a lonely phase and we talk about it. I don't think we spoke about it for 10 years until I brought, a girlfriend home. So I think there are so many life skills from both sides. And I sit in a position where I'm not always popular because I also, it gets very layered. But from the top, like I'm appreciative and very grateful, but I do have a bit of an issue with the fact that we have gay rights and human rights. It's necessary in the society that we live in because of what happens without those. But if we're looking for equality and saying that we're all human, that's the basis, then are we not all just entitled to human rights? Yeah. And then just looking through society, creating queer spaces and safe spaces. And I 100% agree that it's necessary. It's necessary to have spaces where people feel safe, no matter the differences, but we're still stuck in this cycle of either in the queer community, othering ourselves in a separate space, or from the outside being othered. You're different, that's your space, this is our space. Yes. But I do, awareness and learning, and that is essential for things to change, but I find that it becomes difficult where it's still the separation as much as we're trying to be inclusive. Yeah.
Okay. Tracy, I wanted to ask you, when is the right time to have that talk with your children about identity?
So I think the minute you actually pick it up, just to address it.
But some parents just simply don't.
No, they don't. And that's where the mental health issues really come in. There's depression, there's anxiety, there's self-harm, there's suicide.
How does one approach, or how does one even broach that subject with your child?
I think it depends on the relationship you've got with your child as well. Yes. I mean, a good, healthy relationship is honesty, openness, and transparency. But it's not always the easiest. And it's to sit down and just be brave enough to say, ask the questions.
So professionally then, my second question is flowing from what Kirsten said. My second question is, what effect does it have on one's mental health within a professional environment such as advocates if a safe space is created? What is the effect on the mental health and in fact within the context of doing your job as an advocate?
So if we're talking inclusion, we're also talking then your ADHD, your autism, and things like that. It includes everything because we're talking from a human being's perspective. So you're discriminating if you're creating a safe space. Why can't we just have a space where, and I'm very much for that, just being your authentic self and accepting.
But it's not that easy at the bar.
No, it's not. No, I understand that. And that's why I understand a lot of people actually leave the bar. The bar should have wellness programs where there is, the debriefing. Bianca unfortunately couldn't come today, and she's an advocate who had an autistic burnout at the bar. There was no support. Absolutely no support. And I think it's time that these things are addressed. These things are where you are. If you're struggling, there is a safe space to go and talk to someone. So you can debrief and you can get it back on track.
So practically, how does one implement that? You more or less understand what the makeup of the Johannesburg bar and the general council of the bar is. We operate in different groups, but then we have the Johannesburg Society of Advocates, which is the regulatory organization. How does one, practically from your point of view, as an expert on the field of life coaching, encourage the bar to create those safe spaces? What do we need to implement?
So I have put a proposal through 2 years ago for a wellness program for the Johannesburg bar. It hasn't been accepted, and that included one-on-one. We've got a variety, like I said, there's over 60 of us. We've got a variety of different skilled people in different expertise, and that would include one-on-one counselling. It would include group sessions, so group obviously for budget purposes. That can be done in groups. You can do a stress management course in groups. You can do an anxiety workshop in a group. It depends on who'd want to come, and obviously that's another thing. Are you going to expose yourself and say, hey, put my hand up, I'm struggling with anxiety. I'm struggling with depression. But the difference now is after COVID, it isn't as stigmatized as it was before. COVID has been a gift for the mental health industry in the sense of, we're all born imperfect. We all have, the whole journey on life is about becoming better. So we all need to improve our brain health. So it's like we've got our physical health, we've got our brain health too. And there's a direct connection. And we're not taught how to have a healthy self-esteem. So the whole process of the coaching is going from you being self-aware. Remember, 95% of our behavior is automatic pilot.
But it always sounds as if there's something that has to happen that is quite obligatory for these kind of programs to be rolled out so that members of the bar become aware of that. Currently it's a voluntary or even unheard of. Because my question to you then is the proposal that you made to the Johannesburg Society of Advocates, that include the queer community?
Absolutely. Completely inclusive.
Yes.
Completely.
So Jessica, talking about the Catholic school, I wanted to ask you, what would you want to see as a learner for schools? What is lacking at schools not creating those spaces where inclusivity and awareness is created? Practically, I've had this discussion with you a while ago, and you came up with very good ideas of what's wrong and what can actually be quite easily be implemented to create that inclusivity.
Well, we could start with LO, for example. I've been in the school for 13 years now, since grade 000. And this year, we had a whole half a page of LGBTQ inequality, and that was it. In my whole 13 years of being there. We have a transformation and diversity committee. Do they do anything? No. My dad would disagree with me, because he was on it. But everything they say they're going to do, they never end up doing.
So in life orientation, is this an issue that is addressed? Is LGBTQ a subject? A chapter?
Half a page.
Half a page.
Yeah, we basically did a thing on human rights.
Oh.
Human trafficking and what was the other one? Child marriage. Took up more space than LGBTQ inequality, which I have nothing against because those are very serious topics.
And child marriage happens quite often.
Yeah, so they're very serious topics. But like, can I have a little bit more than like half a page, please?
So life orientation is certainly one of the policies in the curriculum that need to be addressed. What about toilets at schools? What about uniforms? Tell me a little bit about that.
Uniforms is a big issue. At my school, we wear dresses, all of us. And that's been a big problem, especially among girls who are insecure, masculine lesbians like myself. We want to wear pants. We put in a proposal, they sent it to the nuns in England. Our school is run by the Dominican Order in England.
And it was well received.
Very well. They were like, lesbians exist? No, really. And it was declined.
Yes.
No, it's very surprising. I was surprised too, don't worry. It was declined, and we were like, okay, but why? There are schools, St. Andrews, St. Stidians, girls are allowed to wear pants. And it's the 21st century, guys. It's not the 1800s where they were born in. Girls are allowed to wear pants.
Even though they're not gay.
Yes, exactly. Girls who are insecure about their legs, they want to wear pants, and there's nothing wrong with that. As for the bathroom situation, we have quite a few, but I've never really seen an issue with it.
In a co-ed school, would it be different?
Yes, definitely.
What would have to be addressed there?
So, the big issue I see Catholic schools and other schools facing now are transgender kids. They don't know whether to assign them by their preferred gender, their biological gender, or biological sex, should I say. So it's a big thing. And I mean, just the other day, my LO teacher, when we were talking about LGBTQ inequality for 2 minutes, she said to us, I asked, because I was the only gay kid, I was one of the only gay kids in the class who actually spoke up about the problems. She was like, I asked the other class how they feel about gay people, and they all said they accept them, all of this. And then she was like, okay, what if a lesbian was sitting in this class right now? And then they all became very miffy. They were all like, oh, well, that's different. And we're like, how is that different though?
So is your experience, I mean, you're probably also socializing with kids in other schools and co-ed schools.
Yeah.
So how do the schools address it, if at all? I mean, are there policies in place for bathrooms? Are there policies in place for uniforms?
So St. Stidians, my one ex-girlfriend went there.
Yes.
They are.
You're 16 and you have an ex-girlfriend.
We're not coming. Don't go there. There's too many.
I'll have to take notes.
I'll give you some tips after this.
It takes off 10 days.
I'll take off. So, for instance, St. Stidians is a Catholic school itself. Yes. And they are extremely supportive of the gay community. In June, they have pride flags up, they have pronoun badges, all of that things.
That's wonderful.
So I'm thinking, right? I know this is a hard thing to think about, but they're a Catholic school. I'm in a Catholic school. I don't think my school can use the excuse, oh, we're Catholic anymore. Because I know because St. Stidians is a co-ed school, it's a lot more complicated.
Yes.
Bathrooms, I know, I think it was St. Andrews. They turned away a transgender girl because she wanted to use the girls' bathrooms.
Yes.
And I've always thought that the whole topic of transgender people using the bathroom they feel, or the gender they're assigned to, I understand it. And I think it should be, because why not?
Can I ask you this?
Yes.
I mean, you know, adults are so complicated.
They really
Sometimes
are.
they really overcomplicate things.
Very much.
What can we take home from the young as far as dealing with inclusivity and queer rights and human rights are concerned? Is it the perception that is the perception right that we have that youngsters are very much more in tune and very much more confident about their identity nowadays? That it's almost become a non-issue.
100%. I mean, there are people my age still very homophobic, especially boys. I'm not even going to call them men because they're little boys. Girls are more, what's the word, accepting than men are.
So how do we get there? How do we teach the old folks from the 1800s, like you say, to start employing the same tools? How do we normalize queer?
I really just think it's a thing of ignorance at the end of the day.
And how do we solve that?
Good question. I have the answer. I'm just trying to word it. Ignorance is a whole thing of, I like to be in my little box, and anyone who does not fit into my box is not a proper human being. I mean, look at some men out there who still believe that women should be in the kitchen. I think the whole thing is queer people need to start having more debates with them. We need to get more studies into it, because a lot of these people will believe science over emotions. There's lots of theories that sexual orientation and identity has to do with genetics. And I think that there needs to be more studies into that in order to change those people's minds. Else, they're just not going to care.
Okay, well, Leon, now stereotyping you horribly because you're the male on the panel. It seems
I
as
didn't mean it
though
to
the
you.
youngsters are saying
I'm
that
sorry.
it's the boys who are the problem. So how do we role model so that we can address those issues?
Yeah, I know. A lot of people say the boys are the problem.
Yeah.
I tend to think of it more as the fathers are the problem. Or boys determine their masculinity based on what they see from their fathers and the role models that they have, and they model themselves on them. And you know, we have this idea of what masculinity is and what it isn't. I mean, particularly in South Africa, just about every boy that gets born, before he gets a dummy, is thrown a rugby ball, and you expect them they're going to be, you know, next Springbok rugby player. They're going to be into this thing. That's the masculine side of it, and you know, you got to drink and swear, and you got to carry on, and you got to do all those kind of things, and that's what the man is all about. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done with parents. There's a generation of parents that don't understand it, and there's a topic that we haven't addressed. I'm not sure we do, because we've spoken about coming out as a gay person. That is, now I'm speaking now from a father perspective, a male perspective. There's a stage where you as a parent have to also come out. So just as the gay person who is at time to evaluate their identity and come to this realization that some of them take months, weeks, years to come to this point, and they come out and they make the announcement. It's almost as if that loneliness that person experiences now transferred to the parent. who now suddenly has to deal with, oh, okay, now I have to deal with this. I have to deal with it with my relationships. It's you suddenly become lonely as a particularly as a father because did I do something wrong? Or did we not raise them the right way? What is the church going to say? What's my parents going to say? And you start dealing with those kind of issues. So there's a journey that the parents have to go through, and the parents aren't skilled to do that either. For me particularly, you have children, and you kind of have this picture of how we're going to have grandkids one day. We're going to have a line. My name, my surname is going to continue. It's my blood that's going to continue. You got all that kind of cultural thing. You're going to create a family. This is what you kind of have a picture for your child, and suddenly, in that moment, that picture gets assaulted. Because now you say, well, is it going to be that way? Now the whole future that you kind of worked out is no longer the same kind of future. Yes, you can have kids, you can do all those kind of things, but it's not like people would consider that's my language kind of thing. So you sit with this challenge, and it's almost like you go through a grief process because you've lost something that is quite dear to you. You kind of, because you now sit with your friends, and it's like, wow, I've got 3 grandkids, and you deal with that situation where the same kind of thing. When's he going to bring a girlfriend home? It's like you deal with this kind of challenges all the time. So I think a lot of it has to do with parents, and particularly fathers. Unfortunately, from what I've seen in many cases, fathers, well, let me put it this way, hurt people. And in many ways, we've expected fathers and men to behave in a certain way. And you're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to show emotion, you're not allowed to do this, you've got to be strong. And that makes them less authentic in terms of being themselves. So if they're not authentic, their children will not see what it's like to be authentic. So, it is, so, it's good that there's a space for children to explore their identity and to express their identity. But it is just as important as parents and adults to be able to do exactly the same thing, because you go through the same process. Yes, it may take a week. You would hope that it's instantaneous. And it's not about, do I love my child or don't? Because my child from the day before to the day after is still my child. I still know what his heart is like. I still know what he is. I know who he is. So there's no reason to stop loving. But you're dealing with your own issues and your own journey that you need to go on. So I think that's where we need to go.
So important. Carmen, would you care to share with us your coming out story? And how did your parents receive that? And I'm asking you specifically within the context of within the African community.
Yes. Okay, so I believe my first coming out was when I was in crèche. So it was a function.
Great.
Yes.
Right.
It was, I think a closing function,
Yes.
everybody in their suits, dresses, and all of that.
Yes.
And then, so we had to do a stage crossing, something like that. And then obviously your girls would have the hands on their heads, and then walk, and then the boys would be walking all straight up. And then I did what the girls did. And then that in that moment, people laughed, and
And you can still remember that?
Yes, I can still remember that. I was shocked. I was like, okay, what's going on here? And then it started from there. People would say, you are gay. And when they say it, they don't say you're gay. They say you're gay. So it comes with a microaggression, and it looks like something that you must be very scared of. You must pray it away. You must say you don't want to be that, and all of that.
May I ask you, the crèche that you were in, was it a mixed race crèche?
It was mostly black.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's this? So fine. so I would relate more to girls than I would to boys.
Yes.
So I would spend a lot of time with girls, and then my dad would be like, "Stop playing with girls, or you're gonna be gay." And I was like, "Okay, I don't want to be gay."
Disease.
Yes.
Yes.
So, go through primary. In grade 4, people are still calling me this, and I'm like, guys, I'm not that. I don't want to be that. High school, I become this person who focuses on my books. So I become the A student.
You become withdrawn.
Yes, I become the A student. I don't explore my identity. So in this case, like I'm into books. Like nobody can say anything against me because I'm smart.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I'm the smart kid. I get to university, all of that comes down.
Why?
Because now I'm in a different world. I need to identify myself. Who am I? I go through my first year, roller coaster, gay, straight, bisexual, all of that. I get second year, COVID happens. I have to stay at home. I'm scared that I'm gonna die. And I know that deep inside, I'm gay. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. I'm not ready to die before I'm gay. So then I come back to Johannesburg. I get involved in politics because I like things. And then this other boy says, so he's counting the people in the group. He's like, there's so many girls, and then there are so many gays, and then there's so many men. So when he counted the gays, he counted me. And I was like, at first there was a bit of resistance, but then it felt calm when he said it.
Yes.
And from that moment, that's when I became myself. I did not have to tell my friends that I'm gay. I would openly say whatever it is that I want. But then for me, it was important that I tell my parents. So I started off by posting pictures of gay couples on my status. Yes. Put it on my profile picture.
Were you raised very traditionally?
No, not really, because I was that kid who was very picky. So if I don't feel comfortable with being outside with the boys, I'll stay inside. It was up to me.
Okay.
So fine, comes January, I'm like, it's almost time to go back to school. I'm like, my mother is a teacher, so she goes back like, I think, second week after New Year.
Yes.
So then I decide to write her a letter. I'm like, hey mom, so I'm sure you're wondering why I've been posting all of these pictures. This is what's going on. Then I fold it, I put it in one of the bags that she was carrying.
Right.
So she leaves, and then that week I decide to post a very old couple picture of gay men. And then my stepdad texts me. It's like, I see you've been posting like a lot of gay people. Is there something you want to tell us? I'm like, yeah, I wanted to tell you that I'm gay. And then they called a family meeting, and then they sit down, yada, 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 asking me, are you sure you're gay? What about children? And what if you now want to be trans and all of that? I was like, no, I know that I'm gay, and this is who I am. And I would like for you to tell my grandfather and my grandmother only. Everyone else, they don't need to know, they will just see. Yeah, that was my coming out story.
All right, and then do you experience at Activate with a lot of students grappling with coming out even at that age to their parents? I mean, coming to the issue of mental health at varsity. I mean, what is your experiences been with people grappling with that?
For most part, I remember with one of my friends, they were telling me that to them, they don't have the privilege to come out because they rely on their parents, everything at home. They don't have a home outside of that. So for them to come out, it threatens everything. Like they get cut off everything. they get to be low, they become lonely. So for them, they would rather play it out, continue being straight until a point whereby they're financially independent, so that they can live their own truth. Yeah.
So do you think the universities have moved a little bit more towards inclusion and creating awareness?
Yes, it has.
Than they have before?
Yes, it has, because with one of the facilities that we have, the Career and Counseling Development Unit, they host weekly talk sessions about building healthy relationships, the LGBTQIA+ support group, and also we have one of the programs whereby we do trainings, so it's called Safe Zones at Birth training.
Yes.
So we train staff members, students who are open to learning about the LGBTQIA+.
And those aren't queer.
Yes.
Queer students, those are allies.
Yes.
Yes.
So we get to teach them how to address people and how to differentiate between each and every person, because we all exist in our uniqueness. Yes.
What do you think we can do here? Because I mean, that's going to be what happens. Is the students studying law at Wits will filter over to this neck of the woods, and then they're going to have a culture shock. How do we, what changes can we make within the JSA, which is literally now a blank canvas?
I think
Where should we start?
it starts with here, in this room, having this conversation and going out there and advocating for more conversation around it, and trying to see like ways in which you can support your fellow colleagues. For instance, using services such as safe zones to make it compulsory that everyone goes through this program before they get admitted or get hired in the space. Yeah.
Now, Alice, you're from the sidebar, as we traditionally refer to it. What
The lower.
You know, there's always this misconception with advocates that they're self-employed. I don't really think that's quite true. We're very dependent on the symbiotic relationship between the sidebar and the bar. But from the LPC's point of view, from the sidebar bar's point of view, have they made any attempts to address these issues?
Let's just go no, not that I've picked up on. If you will allow me, there's something that Leon said that I just want to latch on, if you will allow me to. And thank you for that, because I think there's two things that I want to take away from tonight. And the first thing is, I love change. So how my husband lasted 18 years, only he would know, because I mean, I could change our husband also every second year. So I think you're okay. I think that's why it was easy for me to accept it. But I hear what you say, that a lot of parents are scared. It comes out, and I can imagine if, for example, you're not going to wear a white dress. I mean, I'm very disappointed. I've got 100 pairs of high heels.
Well, she might very well.
She's not. She's never going to wear the high heels. So, I mean, some charity. Well, if ever I die, go. If you want it, you can have it. But so that's the first thing that parents might think. You know, she's not going to wear a white wedding dress. She's not going to marry the rugby player.
Marriage is what we're all destined for, of course.
She's not going to marry the rugby player. Forget the fact that he's going to flicker her and whatever else. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, that image that you have is shattered. So I'm thinking that it is a great idea, and I think the sidebar can also step in, and I'll see what I can do. I'm not very good speaking in terms of the LPC, but there's other things that I can do. I think what I would love to see is that we have something in place for these people to come to, because people don't know. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. When I found out Jess had epilepsy, I was crazy. I was besides myself. Every day at 10 o'clock, I have to go to the school. I have to go and fetch my daughter. She's in a state and there's nothing I can do. And I was in a panic. So if that's the same sort of panic you come in as a parent because you arrange this, you need somebody to talk to. You need somebody to say it's okay. You need somebody to say, you know what, this is how you work through it. And I think We need that. And I think it's not difficult to set that up. That's the one thing. And then I agree with you, it's not difficult to set up communications. And I would love to see that the queer community, is that what you call yourself?
Yes.
Yourself, yes.
Is that the pronoun? So I'm trying.
You're very trying.
I would like to reach out to say, listen, we're having this talk this afternoon. Come. Instead of waiting for the 1800s, as we call them, to take the initiative and to say, we're having this. Come in, like what you're doing tonight. I think it is amazing. And that is how you embrace it. You're proud of who you are, and you get people to be inclusive. Sorry, and what was the original question?
Just from the sidebars.
So I think you should have that, and I think we should actually be going around and say we're doing this. So whether it's in your town, in your community, or whatever else, have those WhatsApp groups. Say we're having this talk this afternoon. There will be wine, because then everybody will come, and then have a conversation.
Yes, well, you would be very interested to know how widely published these talks were, and the same allies attend every week. But but what we say is that it only takes two to start a war. And we're very excited and very appreciative of our allies as well. And I think, Tracy, in that sense, I wanted to ask you.
Sorry, Bianca's just arrived.
Oh, hello, Bianca. Welcome.
Join our for the chat. Just bring a chair.
Yeah, so Bianca.
Just grab a chair,
She's a former
Bianca.
member of the bar. She's probably one of the most sane people who have left the bar. Bianca, I think from your point of view, and thank you so much for joining us. I think from your point of view, you know more or less what the discussions are, but you more than anyone else knows how cutthroat this environment of ours is, and how frowned upon mental health issues are, or not even frowned upon, it's just simply ignored. It doesn't exist. And within the queer community, I believe it's a double whammy, isn't it?
Definitely, sister, because so when it comes to mental health, like you said, it doesn't exist. It gets swept under the rug and you move on. So that lack of I don't even think it's a lack of knowledge, because the information is widely out there. And I think everybody goes through a time in their lives where they have a mental health issue. And it's not even a mental health issue. The solution is basically just having a good relationship with your brain, and when you're struggling, attending to that. But in a profession like at the bar, in the legal profession, it's seen as weakness.
Yes,
So raising that issue or saying, I'm struggling, it's career suicide.
What would you like to see changing at the bar as far as that's concerned?
I think more than just awareness, I think acceptance. You don't have to, for example, with queer individuals, you don't have to condone it. You don't even have to agree with it, but you need to respect it. And I think that is the bottom line. But in a profession like this, you have it's black and white. Either you on task and you follow the norms, or you out. And it's so easy to be iced out. And I think that's the saddest part of it.
And the fear, of course, is no one will brief me.
Yes.
No one will brief me because I'm nutty and I'm gay.
Yes, exactly. And without going into mentioning like names or anything, I actually picked up a situation where, because I was not Afrikaans, I didn't get a brief. In another situation, I got a brief, and when I questioned some of the Afrikaans, it was like, oh, so you're not Afrikaans. I mean, and that's a language. Imagine your mental health issues or your sexuality, or that is 10 times worse.
Yes.
And the sad part is these individuals, whether you any individual that's diverse, that's not your norm, you actually start on a back footing when you get to the box. You're already excluded.
You don't fit into the box.
You don't fit into the box. And when you don't fit into the box, sadly, you just get left out. And the sad part is you work really hard to get here. And
we all write the same exam.
Exactly.
We go to the same university.
Exactly. And then your career ends because of a lack of support or because of a lack of acceptance. So I think, like your more senior council, to get more of those individuals involved, to actually support your queer community, to actually be more outspoken about it and say, you know what, I'm an ally, or I am part of the LGBTQI. Because if I know there's a great risk of that tarnishment also identifying that way. But I think when you look at it and you look at the career path, a lot of individuals will sort of stay in the closet until they reach a more senior level before they will reveal this. But if you are not mentally strong to be able to mask and to hide for those years, how are you ever going to get there?
Well, I don't know whether I was mentally strong or just stupid, but I came out of the first minute I started at the bar. And thankfully, I'm still in business. So how important in that regard then Bianca's role modeling?
I think that the more role models we have when it comes to your queer individuals, when it comes to mental health issues, if people are honestly willing to say, I struggled with that, and I'm here if you need help. If you look at the last year, we did a proposal for the bar where we wanted to do a wellness program with him. And if you look at the stats when it came to suicide, if you look at the mental health issues that your pupils were facing, that your first and second years were facing, it was scary. And that was more than a year ago, and we got no response.
And the unfortunate thing is that, I mean, present company excluded on the seniors present because they're obviously in support of this. But I was told at the previous talks that some of the seniors who have now made it, so to speak, at the bar, and when these issues are addressed, to say, but you need to speak up, this, well, suck it up, honey. I had a hard path to walk. You must do the same.
Those words are actually some of the words I got at some stage. That.
And so why is that so necessary? Why is it necessary? I mean, I think it's gorgeous to be a pioneering sister. Why is it so difficult within this community, which is a micro community within a bigger community?
Exactly.
Why is it so difficult to support one another?
I think so. The initial impression I got when even in our PPG here, so when you do your the Friday afternoon
advocacy training.
Yes, trial advocacy. So you'll find individuals that will come in there and they will run you down like a truck. And those are mostly individuals with a chip on their shoulder.
Okay. And where does the chip come from?
Lack of self-esteem.
And that is why they have that attitude that I struggle, so I'm going to make you struggle, so I'm going to punish you.
Yes.
And that is not teaching anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a sad part. If I can just touch on what was mentioned earlier, though, I actually I do a whole lot of courses and things, and I found something that was very unique and very interesting. And Leon and I actually spoke about it the other day. Actually having support groups for parents, because with parents, so if you look at it, any diversity, whether it's your child being queer, whether it's your child being autistic, or whether your child is dyslexic, whatever it is,
Yes.
that perception that you had in your mind of my daughter walking down the aisle with a white dress, it's like the death. So parents go through stages of grief.
Yes. Yes.
And the important part of that conversation is then telling your child, you know what? I don't love you any less. I'm not disappointed or embarrassed. I'm just trying to work through my own emotions because
That communication.
yes, that
And being
communication, just to say, you know what? I'm also having a hard time. But you know, we'll get there. And I think that is what most individuals lack, that just to know, and you know what, my parents don't hate me. And to accept that, yes, they're also struggling. We are also, it's trauma for everybody. And that is actually something I thought would be a very good support system. As for the bar, I think we should just keep all the old white guys out.
Agreed. Besides the nice ones that are here.
Take them out.
No, definitely not safe.
We'll leave the nice ones.
So I'm going to open it up to the floor now. Anyone online is most welcome to unmute their cameras or just to raise their hands if they have something to say. And also
Cisco, can I add something quickly?
Yes, of course.
I don't think parents should grieve their child's identity. Yeah, I don't think parents should build their child's future in their heads.
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
Yes, this is how you were raised. Yes, this is what you think. But why are you grieving me? I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still your child.
Well, let's hear from the floor. Rita, you've got very strong views about that. So let me ask you.
I think you're 100% on the money there. I think the problem stems, we can take it way back, and that's creating other people's identity in your head. It's a really, really big problem. People do it all the time. It goes beyond being gay, it goes beyond anything. You project your own expectations of what your idea of a life is on other people. And I think that's problematic. But I also do get the point of slight disappointment, because I have a friend whose father came out as being gay when she was in varsity. And they're a very progressive family, very accepting. Everybody is now on holidays together, the mother, the new boyfriend. It's beautiful to see. But even for her, as a very progressive, open-minded young girl at that point, who comes from a family who taught her that way her entire life, it's still not the father that she knew her entire life. She's never thought that anything is wrong with being gay, but your father wasn't gay. He was married to your mother. And now it's fine, but I do feel like there's some level of understanding that people do need to give one another. But I agree with you, we can give each other understanding of certain maybe preconceived notions that you haven't had the opportunity to think about yet. But you can't grieve people's identities because it's not yours.
So you raised a hand.
I have a differing view.
Okay.
I think as a parent, you raise your child as highlighted in a certain hoping. You kind of see their future before, and you implement or you try harder to raise them to be this person that you imagined them to be. So it is a bit, it's not a disappointment, but it's something that you need to accept
Yes.
that they will be their own partner. And for a lot of times, and that's where the identity or the discussion on identity has recently started to be openly talked about. And and that's why I'm saying you can't kick out the old people.
Even though we wish we could.
And say we should not deal with them because those are the parents that
Don't
have
get
a harder
discriminated by
time
people.
dealing with this identity.
Inclusivity.
So either we have these conversations and try to bring people in these conversations rather than cutting people and saying, well, you're too old to get it anyway. Or saying to people, no, you can't understand what I'm going through. And I'm going through identity crisis. I'm a mom who's had a child who in my head was supposed to be this. And now they're coming out and telling me I'm not this person. And I'm a sister. Okay, sure, let's move on.
So you just need a moment to process.
So I think also the older generation that we refer to is those who are receiving or the awareness, who are willing to receive and to embrace.
But you love your
the
child.
otherness.
You love your child. And I think you receive your child once you understand what your child is telling you.
Yes.
And for me, it's like, and I think for me as a parent, just raising a child in an environment where there's so much social media, so much, it's tough. And every single day, as a parent, you deal with these things, and you have to then either protect your child or not.
Yes.
How do you do that? How do you do that
Uncle Robbie, you at some point was it something that you wanted to add?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my issue with grieving is that, for instance, for somebody who comes out at a later stage in life, you have known for most part of your life that you are not what people want you to be. And I strongly believe that parents know their children, and you will know if your kid is gay. So in you saying that you need to take time to process, it's unfair because it's something that you noticed. However, when you could have addressed it at an earlier stage, you chose not to, but rather let your child discover it on their own. And in discovering it on their own, they faced battles that they couldn't even come to you to say that this is what I'm going through.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to add to that. I think, and I'll close it now because I can go on forever.
Yes, because there are a few other
And I want to compare it to any other identity, any other part of your identity. So, like you said earlier, coming out shouldn't really be a thing. I also have a friend who lives in a family where, when it was Valentine's Day in grade 2, he told his mother that he wanted to buy another boy a teddy. And it wasn't a conversation. It was just, okay, fine, we'll go to the shops. Let's go and buy the boy a teddy. And that kid is never going to have to come out. Never, because... And next week, if that kid tells his mom, I want to buy a girl flowers, then the mother's not going to question it because who am I to question that? But anyway, over and above that, I feel like identity, the reason why I agree with you in some sense is because we're only starting to recently have this conversation. So people need to grapple with it still and get used to it. And that is, I think if we don't have patience with one another and just push people in a certain direction, then they're going to be unwilling to understand. So I'd rather give people also time to process. I want to equate it with something. If you come from the Afrikaans community, for instance, and you've been in white schools and you've been surrounded by white friends, and interracial dating was, for example, not a thing where you grew up. But now you start questioning it at a certain age and you're like, but why isn't it a thing? Like, or what's happening here? I shouldn't have to go to my parents and tell them, listen, I'm dating someone from another race. Are you guys fine with that? Never. I should never have to do that. And that's the exact same thing. It's part of your identity. It's part of your preference. And your preference and identity is so integral to who you are as a human being that But I do think that you're right. It's different to what you expected, so you need to process it.
There was another question there at the back, and then I'm going to give the panel an opportunity also to comment.
Yeah, I think there's a sense that I get of a lack of empathy for each other as human beings, because even if one feels as if, because I think what I've noticed, and or at least what I'm trying to understand, is we're all trying to express who we are. But the question at the end of the day is like, are we trying to build our relationship together, or are we trying to ensure that how I feel and what I want to project is as honest as I can without considering whether the other person may have a view that I may need to enlighten in a way in which gets across to the point where I can, it's because, so I'll give you an example. I've got a whole variety of mental health disorders, right, which I've gone through as a therapist, and some of them come from my childhood traumas. And my mom has never been to therapy. The hardest part is when broaching those subjects is knowing where she is mentally and knowing when, and also mourning that certain subjects I can't raise with her because at the end of the day, she may not have the capacity to understand. But because I love her and I want to continue the relationship, I meet her where I can, and where I can't, I stop, because I will only disappoint myself. And I think the hardest part about this is that on both sides, whether it's parents or whether it's children, there is a history of us as people that has programmed part of how we think. And so the point that I want to raise here is it there room in both the queer space or in both, I'm going to say queer space because again, it's the space. However you come, to also in a way, whether you are, cisgender and, the point is that there's a lack of empathy. And I think that for me is at the crux of it, because even if you take it away from queerness and put it into another issue, I think a lot of people fail to understand at the heart of it is empathy for each other. And just to sometimes question yourself, is it possible that this person may be blindsided or may not understand something? So that's the point I wanted to make.
Okay.
I just want to add to what was being said now and lack of empathy. Most of my friends are straight. Well, they don't want to be called cisgender currently now, but straight men. And one of the conversations that I think we had a very, very massive fight, I think, first of it, where they couldn't adjust to my pronouns of they, them. And I remember calling them all ignorant and blocking them. And I think 2 months later, they'd come back and they said, it's not necessarily that we are ignorant. We want to learn, but you're not giving us the necessary tools to learn. Teach us, like, why? What is being non-binary? There's no point in me going on the internet. Yes, I can do the research, but I don't know how that relates to you personally. So let's sit and let's actually have an open and honest conversation about it. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so so for me, I come from
straight frame.
Yes, well, one of them. So I come from a traditional family. So, and I think Lebo has said actually something that is very important. Our parents come from that thing. We can't address certain topics. I mean, I think Moha has been such an important part of changing my understanding and the way I see things and viewing it as just because you are queer, you're part of the community. It is not all that you are. You are still a person, you still your personality, you still, the friend that I know. It's just it's just another part of or dimension of who you are. So it's helped me as well evolve as a person and understand. Because my sister as well, she came out, well, at the time as bisexual, and then she realized, no, going through that whole finding herself and she's this. So I think it was such an important part to have a friend to understand how I deal with that and come to accept and say, no, how you haven't changed. You still are who you are. And I love you for that, and I'm gonna be here no matter what. Just because you are lesbian doesn't mean that, oh, you're weak or you are now masculine. And I think that's the other thing is, I think Leon did speak about the masculine and the femininity, who we grow up, especially as men. I mean, my uncle, I remember at a wedding, he came up to me because I'm the oldest male along the line. So there's certain expectations, obviously, in terms of children, marriage, and all that stuff. And I have all the siblings and also cousins, but they're all mostly females. So on that basis, they're not getting married either anytime soon. So it's a thing of, okay, this is a little bit of a concern, lineage and all that stuff. And he said to me, are you dating? I'm like, no, currently no, I'm not seeing anyone. He's like, which means don't bring a guy here. And essentially it was a thing of, if you do, just know, I'll beat you up. I'll beat you up. He's like, you know your cousin, who's pulling you, which means he escaped from us. We didn't catch him in time. And it was a little bit of shock. I think even other uncles of mine, we've had conversations as well with my cousins, other boy cousins. And it's a thing of, you know, if you are gay, then just tell me, then we'll go to, I'll pay for surgery, you can be a woman and you can date me. But this thing of a man dating a man, we don't do this thing here. And those things come from, I think that, yeah, those past ideals that they have, and I think you touched on that when you speak about the expectations that your parents have. It's the same thing when you're speaking about careers. When you want to do something that isn't this. I think us doing things that are not law, accounting, medicine, engineering is out of question of passion. Passion. Yeah, I think the idea of a passion is, what are you talking about? Passion is when you have money and you can sort yourself out. Don't come here talking about you want to be an artist. Goodness.
Yes, that doesn't make
sense. They can't comprehend that idea. So it's important, I think, people that you surround yourself with, your friends, the spaces that you walk into. And I think you spoke about it as well, about high school and being closed off. Because high school is a very restricted place. Yes. You are only in this box. You're either this or that.
Well, it's exciting to see that things are starting to change, even in the Catholic schools.
I don't know. Let's wait for some of the non-style.
I have a question for Nkokamin, and I guess it will tie in from an educational space, also in because we have this church,
yes,
being in a Catholic girls' school. And you spoke about how when you withdrew, you turned to literature and books. What can be done from that? Because there is literature. I mean, queerness is inherently and deeply African. Yes. And a lot of times we hear in these discussions about, well, this is an African and all that, and having to demystify that narrative. So what can we do from that? I mean, what can be done at an educational space where we have books in libraries that, you know, talk about queerness and identity and demystify this, or this is un-African?
Okay, so I think the first thing would be having libraries. That's what we lack in. I don't know, because I remember there was back in the township that I went to my high school at, there was a book club. So students from different schools would come around together and then they would pick a book and somebody would read that book and then we would have discussions around that. So I think maybe doing one of those things and also like going into education. I remember my friend was an advocate for comprehensive sexual education in schools. So it was like, what's this? What LO doesn't teach you is what comprehensive sexual education is going to teach you. Yes, so we're going to dive deep into it, not to say explicitly this is how people have sex and all of that, but try to teach people how to identify themselves, how to identify things that are sexually related, and how to coexist with one another. Yeah.
Or you should just start writing. So, Roger.
I just wanted to say one thing about demystifying from an African culture. Just a story from my side. My cousin is lesbian, and she recently wanted to get married. And my dad was now going to be the one leading the Lobola negotiation. And he was a bit startled, but it happened. And the two families came together and they negotiated the Lobola, and they are getting married traditionally. And so I think it just requires love from the others from both sides, and then understanding that the two just want to get married and it's the one to be together. And I think as African people, though we might be behind this tradition, our traditions can always be adapted to accept those that are not part, those that we have not seen as part of this culture. It just requires people to be accepting, empathy, empathetic, and accepting of people that do not fall within the box that we spoke about earlier.
Thank you. So I think what I would like to ask our panelists now is just like a 30-second closing off, starting with Bianca on what we just actually starting with Kirsten online. Kirsten, any closing thoughts from you? We're gonna keep it short and sweet. The people are hungry and thirsty.
I think, yeah, I think it covers a lot of what everyone has said, but I think moving forward, the biggest thing for me would be empathy. You know, I think that even awareness, everything stems from a lack of empathy for one another as humans. And inclusive spaces, definitely, but also, and this is something I think in hindsight I can realize, but for parents of, you know, queer children in workspaces, for there also to be spaces where people can come and voice concerns or talk, you know, straight people or whatever the box you want to fit into, where it's okay. You're not a bad person if you don't stand up straight away and say, oh, I accept, I support, you know, this is all wonderful. But then behind someone's back, you still feel all the same ways. There's a lot of pressure for this instantaneous acceptance. And if you don't, then you're a bad person. Whereas, like what Leon was saying, it can be a process. It's letting go of a future that you saw for your child and going through that process, that reality. And I think that applies to a lot of different mental health issues, identities, all of that, where it's a safe space for the people themselves, queer communities, but also there's a space where you can have open and honest conversations. You know, and from the outside, you can say, well, I'm Christian, and in my faith, you know, this is a sin, and how do I marry the two? I use that example because my gran, I always say she has a direct line to God. Like if anyone has his number, it's her. And I mean, when I came out, there were a few years where we just didn't talk at all. And now I'm her favorite grandchild. So there is a way, you know, it's just empathy and I think an openness from both sides.
Thanks, Kirsten. Bianca, hear from you.
I think, Siska, we need to move towards normalizing brain health, firstly, and just, like they said, empathy and understanding. So like on my earlier point, your parents are not grieving your identity, they're grieving their perceptions of what they had, what they saw as your identity. So, you know, understanding from both sides. Because it is a two-way street. Your LGBTQI individuals are struggling, but let's be honest, the parents are struggling as well. So just understanding and basically to push for more for, so awareness, yes, but more for acceptance.
And acceptance doesn't necessarily mean agreeing.
Exactly. It's a question of respecting individuals.
Yes. Alice.
I want to first commend you and say thank you for doing this. Thank you for having this October month, but then I want to make a plea. Can we please continue? Can we have workshops? Can we have everybody together where we say, okay, now this month we're going to try to implement this. We're going to go to school. We're going to do this. Can we not? Jessica always hates this. She says, why is everybody coming out in Pride Month? It should be a year thing. And I agree with that.
I say that about corporations.
So what I'm saying to you is thank you so much for this, and thank you so much for including me, because I am passionate about my child, and by default I'm passionate about all of this. But I would love to see this continue. And if we can have workshops, and if we can do this, and if we can really start implementing what we've been talking about tonight, and I think the key is respect. So what you're saying is I don't have to agree with your way of living. I'm never going to get dressed like that because I'll never look as good as she does. But I respect the look. So that's what it is. Sorry, it is, you look great. But it's that's the thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from people being unsure, and a lot of it comes from people not knowing what to expect. I mean, and I know you said 30 seconds. We've been to her debutante ball. I'll show you the pictures. We could post it on your website.
Yes.
We all went on in tux. So she had a white tux, I had a white tux, Ems had a black tux, and Clita had a black tux. Because my daughter was going to wear a tux, I looked very sexy, but I was. Of course I did. You'd like to have my picture, but so that's what it is.
Yeah.
And show to people that you adjust and you come in another way.
Yeah. So collaboration is one of the big things. Yes. Tracy.
So for me, definitely what Bianca said is to normalize mental health. Like we have our physical health, we have our brain health, and there are solutions. People shouldn't be sitting with anxiety. People should not be committing suicide because of stress.
Give us one healthy coping strategy at the bar.
So I think one of the best things is mindfulness. So mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present tense, and non-judgmentally. It's living here. Anxiety lives here. So anxiety is rooted in the fear of the unknown. So you overestimate the danger and you underestimate your ability to cope. You're living behind. That's just to teach you. Okay. Be present. And how you be present with your 5 senses, what you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. This is what matters. 95% of the things we worry about don't happen. So we're living there or we're living there. So it's a skill just to come back here. Be present, because right here, right now, if you learn to focus your attention on this moment, life is great.
Okay. Leon?
Yeah, look, I think everything you said about it is very good, but I would also like to encourage everyone to, if you want to make a difference, start with yourself. Okay. Learn to have self-acceptance. Work on self-esteem. It's going to be almost impossible to accept someone else if you cannot accept yourself. So it starts with you as an individual. And in that process, for me, the only way to change the world is one person at a time. Is work with the people who can, one person at a time. The 2 people can change 4 people, the 4 people can change 8 people. And it just takes the one to do that first step.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miss Wonderful Junior.
Hello. Okay, I'm about to push some buttons here with what I'm about to say. Parents need to stop being ignorant. Parents are so caught up in their idea of what their child should be. You talk about grieving your child like your child is dead. And that's all out of ignorance, because you do not see them for who they are. My mother saw me for who I was when I was born. I think a lot of it comes from parents trying to live their dreams through their child. I've seen it so often with my friends and people around me. Your identity and sexual orientation should not be such a big deal. Who you love should not matter. And everyone here who says that they grieve their child when they come out is wrong. And I'm saying this because it's a safe space and I can.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome. But I'm not done. I'm not done. One more thing. I know. Love you. You need to find yourself. Because if you are grieving your child, you are grieving yourself because you have not found yourself.
Okay, that's profound. Well done, you know, from the mouth of babes. Thank you so much.
I would say be true to yourself and learn to love yourself and also to extend love to others. Don't limit yourself. I mean, if God can create all these things on earth, why would you just want to be one thing? That's all.
That's brilliant. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone who's participated and everyone who has attended. This is so exciting to see how much interest there is in something that was unspoken about until a month ago. And like Alice said, I just want to resonate that is that the idea is to continue the conversation because it looks like we have to be little terriers at the heels of the issues before they really are addressed at the end of the day. And I want to say thank you so much for everybody's time. But I am, however, going to ask Danny Berger, who is also a father, to
one of the old ones.
to attend to the 1800s.
Yeah, one of the 1800s.
And Lerato, may I ask you to assist Danny with the handing out of our gifts?
Okay, but before we hand out, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. But before I do that, I've got a bone to pick with Siska because she started off today by saying it's going to be a transparent discussion. And I don't see any transparency here.
Yeah, where are they?
I'm a gay father of a 15-year-old boy. And I adopted him when he was 7 months old. And I noticed when he was 2 years old that he's a straight boy. And he goes to a Catholic school as well.
What wasn't going to Catholic school?
Where it's not one of the Catholic schools you mentioned, but it's welcoming of gay kids, straight kids, trans kids, Catholic kids, Jewish kids, Christian kids, Muslim kids. It's an amazing school. So there are Catholic schools.
Please tell me what school this is.
It's De La Salle.
I've heard some bad stuff about that school.
No. We have another De La Salle mother. Oh, both of us. How about that?
In the voice. I don't have one.
Yeah. So, I mean, all I can say is I have a very open relationship with my son. We talk about everything. And I've accepted that he's straight.
I'm very proud of you.
And I think really that's what the message of everyone tonight is just talk. Just talk to your children, talk to your parents. And it's after you come out, life goes on, and the shock of coming out for whoever it might be a shock. It passes, And this group, in fact, is a very good example of a group where members, there are lots of straight members in the group, but there are also some queer members in the group. There are members who do other things, I believe. I heard at lunch today, there was a great discussion about it. But the point that I'm trying to make is that this group, and thanks to Siska for all the debates and the discussions we've had, this group actually is a very safe space. It's a safe space for everyone. Yeah. And I think it's a group that can be a model for other groups at the bar on inclusiveness, inclusion, and yeah, being safe. So thank you all very much. It was lovely to hear from everyone. We've got the right to shine.
Yes, so true to Pride, we don't discriminate between men, women, non-binaries, or gay. Everybody gets flowers.
Can I get pink ones, please?
And to all our attendants online, Kirsten, thank you so much. I'm going to log off now. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Kirsty.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
Thanks, Kurt.
Bye, love.
Cheerio.
Thank you.